The first speaker, Annamaria Giusti, in fact originated the idea of this exhibition when she came to us, and I can't even remember how many years ago it was now, but 4 or 5 years ago, with her colleague Cristina Accidini, and proposed the idea of this exhibition, which has evolved since that moment, but is still essentially her concept, and we're very grateful to her for having brought this idea to us and having supported it throughout the course of this exhibition. She was also one of the principal authors of the catalog that accompanies it. Annamaria was, for many years, the director of the Museo dell'Opificio del Pietre Dure in Florence, which is, of course, the inheritor of the workshops that were established in the late 16th century by the Medici to do Pietre Dure work. It is still a major museum of this and a center for the restoration of Pietre Dure, but also is one of the most important conservation centers in all of Italy. And Annamaria Giusti was also in charge of the conservation aspect of this, or aspects of the conservation there. And you will remember her from having been in this stage not long ago when she supported another exhibition that came here on the Gates of Paradise. And it's to Annamaria that we owe the extraordinary cleaning of this masterpiece of Western art and the opportunity to have 3 of the panels here in New York, which is just a great treat for all of us. So we're delighted to welcome back Annamaria Giusti, who's recently moved to a new post, which is that she's the director of the Galleria d'arte moderna del Polo Museale Fiorentino. And Annamaria's publications are so numerous that I can't begin to enumerate them, but suffice it to say that she is one of, if not the expert on Pietre Dure, particularly in the Italian component of it, and we're thrilled that she will begin today's lectures with the title, Splendor of the Medici Court, Beginnings of the Florentine Mosaic. Annamaria?
Thank you to Jan Wardropper for his presentation and for this occasion to be here today. The fact that the term Pietre Dure appears in Italian in the name of this exhibition is not incidental. This is a deliberate choice intended to underscore the origins of a princely art that was widespread throughout Europe, but which had its roots in Renaissance Italy as a result of a fruitful entwining of relations between Milanese glyptics, Roman inlay, and Florentine mosaic. In a presentation that is of necessity brief, I shall not attempt to synthesize what is extensively illustrated in the exhibition itself and the catalogue, but prefer to focus on that intense and artistically intriguing moment represented by the precedence and by the emergence in Florence of polychrome stone mosaic. The antiquarian passion that in the 15th century motivated Piero de' Medici and his son Lorenzo il Magnifico to collect ancient vases like the famous Farnese cup formerly in the Lorenzo de' Medici collection was paralleled by the simultaneous attempt on the part of the artists to confront the complexities of working with siliceous stones, until then extraneous to the artistic activity of Florence. An early and largely unknown example of his interest can be seen in the medallion of Sicilian jasper set into the garland at the base of Donatello's Cavalcanti Annunciation. In the second half of the century, Verrocchio, emulating the skill of the sculptors of ancient imperial Rome, succeeded for the first time in creating a large three-dimensional work in porphyry. The casket covered in flakes of hard stones on display in the exhibition, a precious miniature version of a monumental Medici tomb, can probably be assigned to his workshop, active in the field of gold and silver work. In the same years in Florence, there was a limited but significant revival of the art of the cameo, brought about by Giovanni di Lorenzo di Pietro, known as Giovanni delle Corniole, precisely because of his skill in glyptics. We can admire a fine example of this skill in a cornelian carved with a portrait of Girolamo Savonarola, which is also an uncommon tribute to the Dominican friar, who was an implacable critic of the luxury of Medici Florence and played no small part in the banishment of the dynasty from the city in 1494. The troubled times that ensued for the newborn Florentine Republic did not favor the stable establishment of a tradition linked to the art of hard stones that had begun under the influence of the Medici circle. Among the evidence for this difficult situation is the fact that Pier Maria Serbaldi da Pescia, an engraver and intaglio artist who had worked for Lorenzo il Magnifico, and by whom a famous small statue of Venus in porphyry has survived, moved to Rome, where he then worked until the end of the century in the Papal Mint. Rome was by now the center of the art world, including the art we are concerned with here. The specialists in glyptics converged upon Rome, most of them originating from Lombardy, which held unrivaled primacy in the carving of cameos and vases in hard stones. It was in Rome, too, around the middle of the century, that there emerged the art, at once new and ancient, of polychrome marble inlay. This modernized version of the opus sectile of imperial Rome was initially used for covering architectural elements, but was soon adopted for tabletops, which immediately became among the most coveted objects in 16th century collecting. On display here are several significant exemplars of a production that began around the mid-16th century and continued intensively for almost 100 years, spreading a lasting passion for the sumptuous tables produced in Rome, not only throughout Italy, but also in the rest of Europe. Numerous stone cutters of diverse provenance created inlays that shared the repertoire of classical type decorations and the valorization of the marbles used in them. These marbles were all extracted from the ruins of imperial Rome, greatly enhancing the preciousness of the works. In Florence, where the Medici had returned to power in 1532, the novelty of the Roman inlay was regarded with lively interest and the spirit of emulation. Cosimo I, the founder of the Medici dynasty, which was to reign over the Granduchy of Tuscany for 2 centuries, desired that his recently established court should flaunt an opulence to rival that of the other crowned heads of Europe. His energetic artistic patronage reserved a place of prominence for intaglio and inlays of precious stones. For the former, Cosimo was in the habit of procuring vases and cameos from the craftsmen of Milan. For the inlays, as well as acquiring tables of polychrome marble from Rome, he also set up a workshop in his own residence in Palazzo Vecchio in Florence, where tabletops were produced using antique marbles and precious stones.